I'm 50 years old, and for most of my life I thought I understood what love was supposed to be: steady, respectful, a little dull maybe, but safe. I married young, had 2 children, divorced young too, and spent the next 22 years focused on work, motherhood, and friendships, especially with my best friend Diane. Diane was my rock, my late-night phone call, my garden gossip buddy, my constant. And while I had long since closed the door on romance, content with memories and the rhythm of independence, something happened that shook everything I thought I knew, something I never saw coming. It started on an ordinary Thursday afternoon. Diane had just dropped off her son Caleb. He offered to help me install shelves in my guest bedroom, said it was the least he could do after all the cookies I baked him growing up. I laughed. He had always been sweet, thoughtful as a child. He followed me around the kitchen with questions about the stars and the ocean. But the boy I remembered was gone. In his place was a man, 23 now, taller, more sure of himself, freshly graduated, and with a kindness in his eyes that hadn't faded. I hadn't noticed how much he'd changed until that day. We worked side by side for a while, measuring, drilling, sharing tools, and companionable quiet. I was kneeling on the floor sorting screws when I felt his gaze linger on me, not rude, not inappropriate, just different, intentional. Then he said, "Carla, can I ask you something personal?" I looked up, surprised. "Of course." He hesitated, fiddling with the tape measure in his hands. "Have you ever done something just because it felt right in the moment, even if it might be complicated?" I paused. "I think we all have." He exhaled, "Because I trust you and I respect you more than most people in my life." His voice softened, carrying a weight I hadn't expected. "Lately I've been seeing things differently, people, especially you." The room shifted. I stood slowly, brushing off my knees. "Caleb, I've known you since you were little." "I know," he said, "and I know how it sounds, but I'm not a kid anymore." We stood in a silence so thick it felt sacred. He wasn't asking for anything. He was simply laying down a truth that mattered to him. "I admire you," he said. "You make me feel seen." I sat on the edge of the bed, not afraid, just unraveled. This wasn't a scandal, it wasn't a fantasy, it was something far more disarming: honesty. "Thank you," I said, "but I need time to think." He nodded. "Of course." He left that day with a quiet smile, not hoping, not expecting, just relieved, I think, to have finally said what had been weighing on him. I leaned against the door after he left, heart full of questions I hadn't asked myself in years. The next morning I woke early. The house was too quiet. I wrapped myself in a robe, cradled my coffee, and stared out the window trying to make sense of what I was feeling. When Diane called around 11, I listened to her usual stories about gardening and grocery lines, pretending nothing had changed, but inside I wasn't the same. Later that day, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror the lines around my eyes, the silver in my hair. For the first time, I didn't try to smooth them away. They weren't flaws, they were proof of living, of surviving, and now maybe of being seen. Around 6, I got a message from Caleb. "Hey, hope I didn't mess anything up. I meant what I said, but I respect you no matter what. Just wanted you to know." I replied, "Thank you for your honesty. I'm still thinking through everything, but I appreciate how you said it." That night I sat on my patio under the stars, a glass of wine in hand, wondering when I stopped dreaming, wondering what it meant that someone saw something in me I thought had faded long ago. The next day he came by to pick up a forgotten toolbox, or maybe it was an excuse. I invited him in. We drank coffee at the kitchen table, talking about music, memories, and mixed tapes. When he finally said, "Can I ask you that favor now?" I blinked. "What favor?" He looked at me and said softly, "Just don't pretend like you don't feel it too." I reached out, placed my hand over his. "I don't know what this is," I said, "but I'm not pretending." Days passed. We didn't rush, we didn't define, but I felt it the way life felt: softer, brighter. I found myself humming while folding laundry, smiling at my reflection. Then one evening he dropped off a USB of songs. "Since you keep cassette tapes in the garage," he joked. We talked until the sun melted into gold behind the trees, and he said, "You make me feel safe, like I don't have to pretend." I replied, "You've grown into yourself. And you," he said, "have always been you. That's what I love." The word didn't scare me. It felt like something that had been waiting quietly for permission to exist. I reached out, touched his cheek, and all lines were crossed. No dramatic embrace, just presence, intention, truth. Before he left, he said, "I'm not in a rush. I just want to know you the way you want to be known." And for the first time in years, I let someone see all of me, not just the caretaker, not just Diane's friend me. Weeks passed. The quiet between us grew richer, not emptier. We moved slowly, thoughtfully, and when he asked me to dinner, I said yes. We met at a little Italian place full of candlelight and piano keys. Over pasta and red wine, we laughed, we shared, and finally I asked, "Are you sure about this about me?" "I've never been more sure," he said. "You feel like home." Outside, beneath the stars, he walked me to my car. I hesitated. "You know this won't be easy," I said. "I don't care what they say. I care about what's real. Are you in?" I kissed him a soft, steady kiss and whispered, "Yes." We took our time. We are still taking our time. Diane doesn't know yet, but I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not afraid of what's next because for once, I'm living a life I chose not out of duty, but out of desire. Quiet, strong, real. And maybe, just maybe, that's what love is supposed to be.